and welcome to the Progressive Queens. This portion of the show, we have a guest panelist with us today, and her name is Kim Brown. She hosts the wonderful podcast, Burn It Down with Kim Brown. It's a great show. She hails from the Maryland area. If I'm not correct. If I'm wrong, please correct me. Like I said, she has a wonderful podcast, which I enjoy watching, and a link to her podcast will actually be in the description section. So look for that. And so we're talking about in this portion about the progressives and how I don't know how I can state this, and pardon the headphones, but this is the only way I can hear everybody from now on. So I have to have headphones that are this big. I can't find the little ones. Um, so if anybody knows about some little ones, earpods, put them in the comment section so I can stop wearing these. But anyway, I wanted to talk about progressives and the backlash that some of them are now receiving, whether it's from Jimmy Dore or whether it's from corporate media. What are your all thoughts about that? And I'll let our guests go first.
So I think you're talking about like the squad and crew et al, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing. I mean, and I was actually thinking about this when Talisha told me what the topic was going to be, and I'm like, what is happening to the squad? And I think what's happening to the squad is what generally happens to people who are very idealistic, and usually come from absolutely left of center. Not moderates, people who have big ideas, people who believe that a better world for everybody is absolutely possible. I mean, what happens is, they go to Congress, which is this rotten institution, rotten from the inside out. The name of the game is corruption and the good old boy network, etc. And they eventually have to have their principles sort of succumb to this institution. And it's almost inevitable. And I know there could be some outliers, like let's say a Bernie Sanders. Bernie's been fairly consistent in his progressive record since serving in Congress, well, the House and then into the Senate. But for the squad, I think that the pressures maybe of being a congressman or a congressperson and what that means, what that actually means in terms of like the backdoor deals that are happening, the lobbying that's happening from big industries. I mean, those pressures tend to wear, I would imagine, pretty quickly on people, and they're not able to go in just guns blazing, as I guess as they campaigned. Right, they run into the reality that this is a slow moving, white male centered place, backed by corporations and big money, regardless of anything else. And the reality of the situation stymies whatever progressive idealistic agenda that they had. And then they keep getting picked on and kneecapped, of course, by mainstream media, who are absolutely more quick to hop on Black women and women of color and criticize them and put them under a microscope, more so than they are non not non-Black people, right? So I think they mean well, but as we all know, ladies, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, and good intentions aren't enough. And while we may be like proud of them individually of what they've been able to accomplish, especially some of their respective stories, Cori Bush, especially, Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar, their personal accomplishments do not necessarily move the needle when it comes to progress for our entire community. So we sort of have to like detach ourselves from like rooting for these people, because we like them. I mean, there's a lot of progressives that I like. Like I like Nina Turner a lot. Like I want Nina Turner to win. But if Nina somehow goes back on her principles, then I will be less enamored with Nina Turner. You know what I mean? Like, despite how much I like her. But yeah, I just think you can't really go to Congress and change Congress. Unfortunately, I think you go to Congress and Congress changes you.
Wow, that
Absolutely.
was a whole lot. Guys, you have anything you want to add?
So yeah, I'm right there with Kim. I honestly do believe that the progressives, especially the squad, has good intentions when they came there. I think it is a lot, especially for a young lady like AOC who's like in her 20s. That's a lot of pressure. And you not only have the Fox machine, you had at one point, I refuse to call him the president of the United States, but you had 45 coming down on her. And with that comes a whole bunch of threats and baggage. So I can see that fire getting dampened, especially when supposedly the people that's supposed to be on your side, the ones that have been in Congress since probably since some of us were babies, if some of us were even born yet, they're part of the problem. They're supposed to be on your side. The Nancy Pelosi's, the Chuck Schumers, the Jim Clyburn, my personal favorite. They literally are the enemy, and how can they still maintain this strong fight for the people when it feels like there's nobody that has their back? And granted, the people have their back, but then, like you guys mentioned, you get Jimmy Dore, who is, he bypasses all the representation in California and comes all the way over to the East and Midwest and yells at the Congress people that aren't doing their job. However, he doesn't say anything to, you know, all the representation they have in California. So it's a lot. Um, However, like we were discussing last night, I feel we can't idolize them. We have to hold them to account. We have to put their feet to the fire. 8 months ago, they came up with something saying that they were going to strengthen the Progressive Caucus. Apparently, now you only have to pay $4,000 a year membership dues, and you're a progressive now. So I don't have to put in my money where my mouth is. So they were going to get it to where if you vote against the voting block 2/3 of the time, you're out of the Progressive Caucus. Where has that happened? It hasn't happened. And so all these things are supposed to be going towards what the people want, what the people need, but then we find they're not even voting as a block. So they have to tighten up. They have to band together. I am holding out hope with all you ladies that Nina Turner gets in there and is that bull in the china shop, and they coalesce behind her, and and beside her, and we start getting the people's policies passed, because we all know Joe Biden is not never going to do what we need him to do.
I
And
think we
Nikki.
need, I think we need to differentiate because there seems to be only two camps. One, as Talisha said, people idolize them. They can do no wrong, the squad. On the other camp is the idiots like Jimmy Dore, who totally dismisses them. They're no good. Get rid of them. I mean, he says the same thing about Bernie. He says they've been bought. How about we meet in the middle? Maybe we can't dismiss them now because we've got a year and a half till elections. They still have the same, I believe they have the same principles. They've been running into brick walls nonstop. They come up with bills that Nancy refuses to even put up on the floor for debate. And at least they're out there.
Oh, we have some interference there. Sorry about that, guys. I'm going to put her on mute here for a second. Go ahead, Mickey.
They, I lost my train of thought. That's what happens when you get old. I mean, he is even saying that Bernie and AOC and all of the squad have turned corporate and have been bought and are taking corporate money, which they're not. He has yet to show proof of that. I'm like I said, I'm in the middle. I think they still have the same principles. They still have the same desires. They've just been kicked in the teeth so much, and they've been blocked so much. I think we need to keep contacting them, telling them what we want, and letting them know if they don't give us what we want, we will campaign against them in the next year and a half. But I don't think we should completely give up on them.
I have, of course, 18 different opinions on this. And I agree with parts of what you all are saying. Um, but there's other parts that my main criticism of the squad is sometimes I think they tweet too much. Like if you don't stop tweeting things out, if and I don't know their daily schedules, so I don't know the meetings that they're having with other legislators. I don't know what it is that they're doing. But sometimes, from my perspective, it seems that not, they're just tweeting just way too much. And I'm like, I need you to get off Twitter, and I need you to be out there talking about Medicare for all, and I need you to be talking about universal basic income, and I need you to be advocating for more than a $1,400 check that we have. As you all know, my other thought is on my other show, Thursdays with Tracy, I did an interview with someone from the Medicare for All March, that's where Jenny's at right now. She's actually live from the march itself. And he talked about extensively how he felt as if the progressives didn't show up at this event. They truly weren't for Medicare for all. I completely missed that when I first sat down and talked to him. But I think that's the way a lot of progressives are feeling. Like, a lot of progressive voters are like, okay, you're not at this event, so you must not be for my event. Or if you're not advocating for XYZ exactly the way that I want it, you're just the fraud.
It's so interesting. I'm so glad that you brought that up, because I had questions about that. Because sometimes I take breaks from social media and I'm not necessarily as tuned into the conversation. So when I peek in and I'm like finding it difficult to follow what the complaint is, I'm left wondering. So this is something that I had seen percolating around. Like, people, speaking of Nina Turner, had very specific criticisms about Nina Turner, because apparently she was not going to attend this today's Medicare for All rally, and taking that as a sign that she was not in favor of Medicare for all. And I've been following Nina Turner for almost probably a decade now, and I have never known her to not be in favor of Medicare for all. Like, that is something that she has always stood firm on. So I'm like, okay, well, do we need to have perfect attendance at the Medicare for all rallies in order to be taken
That's what
seriously?
I meant about it's all or nothing.
Yeah, it's
Right.
all. Yeah,
It's one thing, it's the other. There's no middle ground.
and that's what really is scary about it, because basically we all know Jimmy Dore started this whole the fraud thing. We know he started it, and questioning their loyalty to the progressive caucus or the progressive standards. Well, my question is to him, like, who made you the standard bearer for all progressives? I didn't hear anybody do that. And second, when they came out and they even criticized Charles Booker, and to my understanding, his wife just gave birth. He has a new child at home he has to take care of. He doesn't have time to be marching in, I think the march is in Louisville, Kentucky. So it's like their criticism. I get that they want Medicare for all, but I don't get this. If you're not there, you're not in. I don't understand that. I'm like, there's hundreds of reasons, literally, why people may not be at that particular march, and then for them to take it, it's like, it's so extreme. It's such an extreme measure.
And like with Nina Turner, she's fighting for her life now, with the entire corporate Democrat Party and the Republicans backing Chantel Brown. She's fighting for her life. She's got to get out there and talk to her people. She has to. I mean, they're backing Chantel Brown, and it's been pointed out, and nobody seems to care, that she has listed all these people who endorse her. And people on that list are coming out and saying, no, we didn't endorse her. We're endorsing Nina. It's being pointed out. Why isn't that all over every news source?
Well, we know why. The media does not want somebody like Nina. I mean,
Well, the media is owned by the same people who own our legislators.
exactly.
Facts.
And think about it. If they fought as hard as if they fought as hard with the Republican Party as they do against progressives, the Democratic Party would be head and shoulders above where they should be. But they're so busy fighting in this particular.
Yeah, but then that's where.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, that's when we get into the. Thank you. That's when we get into the actual facts, though. They're on the same team. The Republicans and the Democrats have one master and one master only, the United Corporations of America. They don't care about the people. They don't care about the culture wars. They don't care about abortion. They don't care about what God you pray to. The only thing they care about is how green of the money is going to go in their back pockets. And until we can get our voices to rise to the top, independent media, then folks are going to still have that steady diet of MSM that says your team blue, your team red, this matters. And meanwhile, we're steadily getting poorer, sicker, and deader.
Absolutely. And,
Yeah.
you know, I've talked about it on my show a couple times that, you know, Jimmy Dore, unfortunately, he's somebody that I don't tune into, but when I hear about the kinds of things that he says, I mean, Tracy, you just listed off all the criticism he had for everybody not white, maybe Bernie Sanders. And it's like, I'm sorry. I don't have the patience for a white man pointing his finger at black legislators who have a 10 times harder road to hoe than any white person elected to Congress, right? And for him to wag his finger, okay, you Negroes are not doing all that you can from the comfort of his mansion, from what I understand, like it's really rich, you know what I mean? Like, and I want us to be just I guess more guarded, like I have an issue with people really stepping outside of their lane when it comes to talking about people from our community, and not necessarily like just defending all, like I'm not rooting for everybody, for all black Congress people, right? Like everybody black that's in Congress is not in favor of our agenda, and they are not wholly in support of our
Bye,
community.
Burn.
Right, to name just
Yeah.
as an example, right? But the ones who are on our side, like we know are on our side, like I believe Charles Booker is absolutely on our side. I believe Ayanna Presley is on our side, and it's like, sir, you might need to, you know, check that privilege just a tad bit, and actually give
Right.
some of that energy to some of these longer serving white Democrats who continue to slow walk the progressive agenda every single chance that they get.
Well, you know, it's not just black. Excuse me. He actually said back when Noam Chomsky and Bernie said, okay, vote for Biden, Dore said, both of them have been bought. They're both corrupt. Don't listen to them anymore. They're garbage. I'm sorry. I disagreed with Bernie and Chomsky about voting for Biden. I didn't. But you don't throw out a lifetime of doing good because you disagree with something they said.
But you
That,
know,
that
I'm sorry, Mickey,
no,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say, and a person that really surprised me that got into this argument is someone I highly respect. It's Ralph Nader. I'm like, wait a minute, no, not Ralph. No, anybody but Ralph. I was like, no, he criticized AOC and Bernie for apparently not being, part of
I
it was
saw
not being
that.
on his show, and then part of it was they haven't advanced the progressive agenda. I'm like, no, not Ralph. Not it could have been Obama.
I voted for him.
I
I
voted
voted
for
for
him
him.
3 times. I'm like,
Yeah.
I
no,
saw
not
that and I was
Ralph.
shocked.
I'm sitting here like, wait a minute. I had to go outside for a walk because I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. Not Ralph, anybody but Ralph. I could have took Howie Hawkins. I could have took Angela Walker. I could have taken Jill Stein, but it was just seeing him make that criticism. It shook me. I don't know why, but it shook me to my core.
Well, I don't know if he's wrong. And so now I'm going to be the odd woman out. I don't know if he's wrong because we have seen Bernie bend the knee one time too many against Biden. We have seen him take them shots like I beat the socialists and keep it pushing. Whereas we all know all the corporate and establishment Democrats came together like Voltron to defeat Bernie. That was the only way they were going to get Uncle Joe in, right? So yeah, when Bernie could have used his sway, like he kind of just let the progressive movement die when he got out of the race, as opposed to maybe channeling that energy towards, what we're trying to accomplish. And so now that Joe's just walking around doing less than half measures, let's be real. I had very low expectations going in. Like I told you guys, I thought he was going to be harm reduction. That's why I unfortunately had to bite the bullet. And I'm not gonna say it, but y'all know what I did. That bad thing. Um, so harm reduction, but it's almost like he's almost just as bad as Trump. Just we don't have the nasty rhetoric. He's still dropping illegal bombs. He still has this immigration policy that kids are getting locked up. He cut and means tested the stimulus where people aren't working. He's totally fine telling folks get out there and go get a job because you don't really want to work. He's Joe. He's the same Joe he's always been. And so I'm kind of with Ralph Nader that says, Bernie, if this is you, if you're the father of this progressive movement, you need to get your head out of your bum. Yeah, you got to work within the your confines, but it took us to pressure him to have the vote for the 15, because he was just going to say, well, maybe not this cycle. But it took all of us to basically, shake the trees for him to have that vote. So yes, absolutely. Bernie could be doing more. Granted, I know it's scary, it's sad, it's lonely being the one person that seems like in the Senate that wants to stand up for progressive values, but that's what you chose. That's what you chose to do. So I'm with Ralph.
Yes, and I think that's why it shook me so much, because I'm like, oh, there's a part of me that agrees with that statement. Look at how the progressives, in particular the squad, backtracked on that $15 minimum wage. They did all that work, got it through the House. Then it got voted against. And it was just, okay, we're going to just let this one Joe Manchin and one Kristen Sinema and all the other six that voted against it, along with the Republicans. They did the same thing with the aid to Israel. It was the same, oh, we're going to raise this concern. We're going to make some stink, but eventually we're going to coalesce and get behind whatever Daddy Joe says, and let's do it. So I think that's why it shook me, because I see the criticism more than I see the good things. And that's where I'm trying to get myself out of, because I want to continue in the progressive movement. But if this is what you're giving me, I might as well just go ahead and vote for the Chantel Brown likes, because at least I know what I'm getting. Not that I will, I'm not, audience, but I'm saying this is how I feel sometimes, because I'm like, okay, you're making you're making all of these promises, and I know there's 535 people who have to be along with the bill, and you get majorities and caucuses, and I understand that. I understand Nancy Pelosi is petty. She puts people on committees where they don't need to be. She gets people off committees if they're doing too much. I get all of that. But the core is, if you're just going to go back on what you campaigned on, what is it that's supposed to make me vote for you? And I live in a state where there's just one progressive person, and he's in a district. I don't even want to say he doesn't have a chance, because there's always a chance. But basically, he doesn't have a chance, because I know the district that he's in.
It could be worse. My representative is Elise Stefanik.
Oh.
I mean, Tracy, you're articulating a position where people get so frustrated and so disgruntled at the lack of forward progress that they just stop voting altogether, right? Because they see, and we can see, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know everybody's ages, but I imagine all of us are 40 and up, right? And
no, Jenny's 35.
That's Jenny.
Yeah, Jenny's 35.
Oh, I can't see Jenny. She's got her face covered. She's
at the protest. Yeah,
I will soon be 73.
Right. So we have seen the way how slow progress has come, right? And we see that the climate is clearly burning, like the earth is literally on fire. We see that Black people are still very much getting shot and killed by police. We see that, the education system continues to fail children now generationally. And we understand that, the institution of the federal government is just really ineffective unless you are part of the elite or if you are in the business class. Like those are the only interests that only get looked out for now. Like that's it. And I feel as though like really the rest of us are sort of on our own because we keep trying to righteously, I think, engage the system politically, but we just lack so much institutional power as a people. Right now I understand if we come together as progressives we can perhaps form this multicultural multi everything block, but it just doesn't seem to be enough to move the needle fast enough, right, given the urgency of so many of our needs. So I'm trying to figure out ways, and paying attention to community building and movement building in places like, for example, like Minneapolis. Like they have really done things very well. Even before George Floyd, the folks in Minneapolis have been extremely organized and supportive of meeting the needs of the community because the elected officials just refuse to, right? I mean, it is shameful talking about the $15 an hour minimum wage, guys. I mean, I remember in 1995, I used to work at Chuck E. Cheese. Like I think I was making like $8 an hour at Chuck E. Cheese, over 20 years ago. And it is just part and parcel that our elected officials, the powers that be, are not interested in whether or not we thrive, let alone even survive at this point. So what is it that we're going to do for ourselves, like the self-determination of our communities? Because we keep playing the political game or trying to play the political game, and they just keep telling us to go die. Is what is
Yeah,
the message that I'm getting.
You know how
yeah, you have.
discouraging it is?
Yeah, it
I
is.
I first got interested in politics with my teacher in the 6th grade with JFK. That was a few years ago. I marched in the 60s for, as we called it then, civil rights, women's lib, and gay rights. I saw steps being taken, little at a time, going in the right direction, far from perfect, but going in the right direction. And then in 1980, along came Reagan.
Hmm.
And I saw not just steps not going in the right direction, but giant leaps backwards. When Bernie burst on the scene in 16, I actually felt a spark that I hadn't felt in 40 years. Now I see what's going on. And to be honest, I've been very discouraged, very saddened, and angry because I see us back in the 60s before we marched.
Yeah, it's ditto everything Mickey said because it's like, okay, you can't get political power, you can't talk to people. Everybody, like Talisha is saying, is watching the CNN to MSN. It's like it's a constant educational cycle. You're always educating, you're always correcting. It's like I feel like I'm always in that corrective mode. When I hear people say, "Oh, I'm not going to take the vaccine because the government's plotting to kill me." Well, why would the government do that? They wouldn't have a tax base if they did that. I'm just constantly in that mode where I'm always striving for something. And like Mickey said, it's a heavy, heavy, heavy load. And here's where I'm going to differ from what you said, Kim, and I hope you don't mind. But you do have to use the political process in a sense, because we're not going to change the environment without it. We're not going to get a higher wage without it. We're not going to get Medicare for all without it. So in some sense, we do need that legislative change. But what we really need is a change of mind. We have a society that just basically looks out for its me, mine, and I don't care about anybody else.
We're
Whereas
not going to get we're not going to get
uh,
any one of those things you mentioned unless we get money out of politics.
exactly.
And
I
the
mean, we know
only
that.
way we're going to get that done is if we get enough progressives in. And how many
Exactly.
decades is that going to take?
Yeah, that's gonna take.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's where it's like, okay, this is so discouraging because can you imagine if I know that Biden campaigned on let's get rid of Citizen United. He doesn't want Citizens United gone. He benefits from it. So
Absolutely.
the five of us know, oh, well, he's just lying to the public. Good luck telling Joe Q public that same thing. Because now it's just like, well, he's in office, everything's okay. No, everything's not okay. And I think that's the one thing that this pandemic has done. It's like more people are starting to open themselves up to, you know what? Things are not okay. And I am not glad that the pandemic came. I am not. But I am glad that people are looking at our societal needs more. They're more open to Medicare for all. They're more open to, heck, you got people quitting their jobs because they don't want to go back to corporations. I never thought I would see that happen.
You realize that long before COVID came, the public, the voters, both Democrats and Republicans, the majority wanted M4A. Both sides of the aisle of the voters wanted
I
it.
still do.
And that was before COVID. Can you imagine now?
And it's way higher now because now people are like, oh, these social programs aren't really as terrible as the Ronald Reagans and the Joe Bidens and the Barack Obamas would make it. I do have one rhetorical question, and you don't have to answer this. I want to know, well, my question is this. When did progressives stop being interviewed by independent media? It's like they just all of a sudden, they got to office and then they just said, okay, nope, we're just going to go on CNN. Okay. And
they've been asked and they're not coming on.
Yeah, they're not coming on. I mean, I know I don't have enough subscribers for anybody to come on my show, which is why I'm grateful that Kim is here. But I get you're not going to come on this show. But you're not going to go on TYT. You're not going to go on Clickbait. You're not going to go Burn It Down with Kim Brown. You're not going to go on any of those shows.
Well, that's why on my show, like the handful of elected officials that have appeared on my program are all either state elected officials or city council members, like ultra local. I mean, I guess the progressives who get elected to Congress won't do independent media because they big time now. Okay, like they can't.
And they're afraid they might get confronted. They might get asked,
right?
Okay, what are you doing?
Right. So, I mean,
exactly.
that would be my answer to that. But I wanted to circle back real quick to something that you said, Tracy, because like, I think my frustration and resignation comes really very much at the federal government and people who are elected at the federal level. I agree people should engage politically. And I think that we have seen much more of the progressive agenda get passed in state houses way sooner than will ever happen.
I mean, what state do you
level.
live in? I didn't mean to interrupt. You live in Maryland, right?
Yes.
Okay, you're more okay, because I live in a very, very, very red, very, very, very red, very, very, very red state. I think I'm living in the one Northeast.
Kim's governor is a little red.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You have a Republican governor, but yes. It's still Maryland is still a blue state.
It's blue, not a progressive as advertised, but it is blue. Yes.
Okay, I understand. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Same with New York.
Exactly, like with the legalization of marijuana, medicinal and recreational has happened at the state level across lots of states now. The raising of the minimum wage up to $15 an hour in a lot of places has happened at the state level, and even some places super locally are taking measures to look out for health insurance covering people for Medicare and Medicaid at the local level, making sure that people are and I think it was Marcus. No, it was Mondale on Clickbaity had brought up about a progressive brother. I think out in Sacramento, the Sacramento City Council was able to get universal basic income passed in some form or fashion. So I agree. Engage very much locally, because that is where actually the progressive agenda in some places. I don't know what red state you're in, Tracy.
Indiana. I'll call it out. Indiana.
Oh yes, child. Yes.
See, you got that look on your face. Yes.
But we also have to realize when we say red state, blue state, that pertains to the voters. The voters in New York are blue. A lot of our government is either
It's red.
Republican
Mm-hmm.
or corporate Dems,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
corrupt corporate Dems. So we have to differentiate who is running those states as opposed to the voters.
Yeah, but Mickey, in my state, it's all a bunch of red, right wing red
Mm-hmm.
clowns.
Yeah.
I mean, from just from the top office down, all Republicans.
Worse than Cuomo?
Yes.
Um, I call him Millhouse because he looks just like Millhouse on The Simpsons. That governor who's going to be going out pretty soon, he's already said if marijuana he will veto if marijuana ever becomes legalized in Indiana, and of course it won't because our legislatures are 75% or 85% Republican. So we have literally
Doesn't
no
matter.
choice.
They found out that marijuana was very lucrative. A lot of
But
Republicans have changed their tune. So I'm a
mm-mm.
little shocked
Oh no.
that your legislature is so hardcore.
It's that fake moral argument that they try to bring up. Meanwhile, they're getting accused of sexually harassing women. But I won't go. I'm not gonna get down that very localized. So I'm not gonna bring up that they had to be separated from Democrats fighting in the state house. I'm not gonna do that because that's not what this show is about. But I just find it so funny now. The reason I brought up that question about how when the progressives were running, they were running to independent media. And now it's like, no, we got to where we are. Thank you. And like Mickey said, I know they've been invited. Well, what's making them not come? And it's this a larger, okay, I got to where I'm got, and now I don't need you anymore. And are they going to do that to the people that actually supported them? That's the larger point that I'm trying to make.
We need to contact them constantly. Everyone, doesn't matter if they're not in our district or our state. We need to let them know what they promised, what we want, and what we'll do if they don't deliver.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't know though. Like, I don't see that working to like an AOC. She's like a superstar in her district. The Puerto Rican girl made it good, and so I don't see that working. We are a little more advanced because we keep an eye on this stuff. Your average person that's watching the news, catch the day, if that, they don't know. They have no idea. All they've seen is clips of her fighting in Congress. All they've seen is clips of Nina Turner screaming Medicare for all. But when Nina gets there and maybe she gets broke down, I doubt it. But still, if by some chance that happens, they're not going to know what we who have that steady diet of what's really going on is going to know. So I don't even know if that works anymore. Because look at my best friend, Jim Clyburn. He's got a stranglehold in South Carolina. There's never any way to get rid of him. And if I could, you best believe I'd move there just to get rid of him.
You didn't say anything about that GIF I made for you.
Oh yes, the GIF. It wouldn't let you make it, would it? It wouldn't let you do it.
It wouldn't let me post it on my page.
So Kim, you don't know this. I have a bad habit of calling Black people who sell out the C word, and I don't care. I'll drop it anytime. I want to do the house N bomb, but I refuse to say the N word. So I'm like, you know what? I'll just call them coons. And so
I listen, you got to call a thing, right? If
I do, but we had some people on this show, I'm not going to mention them, that didn't quite like me saying that, but I'm like,
no,
this is what
I said. I don't like that word and I would never use it.
Yeah,
you can
should
use it. There's a difference.
Yep, because I'm going to keep using it. But I said, well, this is what Jim Clyburn is. He's a coon. So Mickey decided I'm going to find an actual coon and put Jim Clyburn's name, and it wouldn't let her do it.
Oh, wow.
Wouldn't let her do it.
You've probably seen that GIF of the raccoon with the cane dancing.
With the cane dancing.
Oh, yes.
I just tagged it as Jim Clyburn and they wouldn't let me post it.
Yep.
Well, probably because it's, I can see how it could be construed as racist if it was coming from the wrong person, right?
Oh no, I got booted out from Facebook for calling Jason Whitlock a coon. I was like, you're not gonna say that about George Floyd. He had said basically George Floyd, he was high on drugs, he deserved that. I'm like, no, You're a coon. And of course, I got a nice little warning from Facebook. Don't you do that. I'm like, do you know what that word means? And they still said no.
You get warnings. I get 30 days in jail.
Yeah, I got a nice little warning. Don't do that anymore. But I'm gonna bring on Jenny because she's been sitting there for a long time. So Jenny, go ahead and speak, ma'am.
Hey y'all, how are you?
Great. You're at the rally for Medicare for All. What's actually going on there?
Yes, so my rally is not affiliated with the March for Medicare for All, but we did coincide our protest because it is the same thing we're all trying to achieve. Where you were talking about states earlier, my state, as you know, is a little bit ahead of the game in voting rights. We have got completely mail voting here, and as soon as you register your address, you're registered to vote. They as soon as you turn 18, they send you your information, your card, and tell you how to.
And Jenny, you're in Oregon, right?
I'm in Oregon. Yeah. They tell you how to affiliate with a party, and each ballot comes with an informational book that says what you're voting on and gives the different sides to it, gives snippets from each candidate should they choose to participate. So we have really good voter turnout, and we have really educated voters. They're not just making guesses. We also we're working up to our $15 minimum wage. Last I heard it, I think it was $13.50. And then, so we also have been trying to get healthcare for all here in Oregon with HCAO, Healthcare for All Oregon. And we're pretty close to doing it on our own if the federal government isn't ready to do that, much like we did with marijuana and and voting and minimum wage. That being said, though, there are a lot of people in Oregon that think we're so progressive we can relax a little bit, but it's not true. And one of the biggest examples of that is one of our legislators was someone who let some of the January 6th rioters into the Capitol. And he was caught boasting about it. He's been removed from his seat. But the fact that there were people like him in the rooms where we make laws is terrifying. And so a lot of the rest of Oregonians need to wake up and realize there's still a lot of progress that needs to be made. Yeah. And if I don't get a chance to say it, Kim Brown, I'm a huge fan of yours. You're amazing. I love listening to you, and I'm a little bit starstruck talking to you. Okay, I'm just gonna say that.
That's so kind of you, Jenny. Thank you. That's so nice. And I wanted to take a moment to shout out Oregon again, because Oregon decriminalized all drugs, which I thought was like the hugest of deals, like the hugest of deals. You want to talk about drug policy reform? Decriminalize all drugs. That's a brilliant policy.
Jenny,
and we have a really good good program for.
So is Oregon going to release all nonviolent drug offenders to prison?
I believe so. I believe that is part of the package, but I don't know if there is if there's a specific date that has to be done by. I will get back to you on that. That's a really good question.
That's the next step.
Yeah, you're right. We also have clean needle programs. We also have any public property that is not being used can be used by a homeless person to live and stay. Yeah. So we have made a lot of progress, but yeah, we've still got a ways to go.
Yep, and I hate to be like news reporter and say back to Tracy, but I'm gonna put you on mute for one more second, and I'm gonna get back to the discussion if you don't mind.
Okay, I'm actually gonna go do the rest of the rally if that's okay with you.
That's perfectly fine.
Okay.
We just wanted to bring you on, tell everybody just keep marching and keep organizing.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Nice to meet you, Kim.
Nice to meet you too, Jenny. Keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
That's awesome.
Man, I'm moving to Oregon.
I
packing
can't
my
move.
stuff. I'm out. I'm moving
You
to
can't.
Oregon now.
You can't move to Oregon, Talisha. It's too. It's a lot
It's
of
too
white power out
expensive.
there. It's a lot of white power out there.
It's way more expensive than Maryland.
Is
Way
it?
more expensive.
I got Congress people and Republicans locking me down like 5 feet from my house. So I might as well go to Oregon where I can at least smoke weed.
True story.
Or other
That I can
stuff.
understand. It's amazing though. You're about to be able to go right down to Virginia and smoke weed very soon. I mean, they passed legalization for recreational weed. I think it was July 1st. So now they're about to try to get the whole infrastructure set up for recreational sales in Virginia of all places. Now, see that Virginia is a good example, I get, of progressive organizing to turn a state from red to, let's say, purple. I don't know if Virginia is 100% blue as of yet, but it's
Definitely
purpled
not
quite a
blue.
bit from where it used to be.
Yeah, it's amazing what we can do, but like I'm leaning more towards what Mickey is saying. Sometimes it just is so much. It's like, okay, I need to either watch Love and Hip Hop or Cheaters or something just to kind of just temporarily take my mind off of it. And I, you know, as much as I have an open policy for all the progressives to be on this show, which they probably will never do, I'm still frustrated that they aren't talking to us. Like, okay, tell us what you're doing. You don't have to give me at 8 a.m. I met with this person and at 10 a.m. I did this. I don't need to know that. But in general, one of the things I think that annoys me, because I'm jumping around because I got like 20 thoughts in my head, is when they started naming people or don't name people. That gets on my last nerves.
Mm-hmm.
They are taking money from corporate. Who are you talking about? Who are you talking about? Either drop a name or shut up. It's one or the other for me.
That's what Monique said to Angela Yee on the Breakfast Club. Either name names or keep it on the playground.
Like, exactly. Well, they're taking corporate money. Well, who is they?
Who is they, honey?
Yeah, and even Nina's doing it a bit. I'm
like,
Nina, no.
That thing about Manchin, the phone call was released.
Oh yeah.
With him conspiring with Republican billionaires. How much was that splashed all over the news? Why aren't we still hearing about it? Why haven't anybody, Democratic or Republican, in office called him out on it?
I still wonder how he gets it. Him and Kristen Sinema, it's only two of them in the Senate. They can raise as much ruckus, but there's 11 progressives and they're just all like, okay, what we're going to do. We can't vote as a block. We can't do anything.
Well, you know, I remember when we were talking about I think it was the minimum wage or Medicare for all. And I was on the force the vote side, and it seems to me that I got voted down by everyone else that I was wrong. And now we're giving them, we're condemning them because they didn't force the vote.
No, I was the only one against force a vote, and I'll tell you why I was against force a vote. And I said this in my interview with the person that I brought up from the movement for the Medicare for All March. There was never any, okay, we're gonna force a vote, and then we're going to. And I kept waiting for and then we're going to. That was my problem with force to vote. I don't have a problem in theory of forcing someone to vote for something. But I have a problem when there's no back end follow up type of plan. That was my problem with force to vote.
You know what kind of bothers me, guys?
I was initially.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, honey.
Go
ahead, Talisha. Go ahead. No. I was going to say.
I was initially for.
Yeah, okay, so everybody in A minor.
So shy.
Yeah, let's try this again. Kim, you go.
So what bothers me about the power that Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema have is that no matter how much that they show and prove that they are opposed to any sort of progressive agenda at all, the National Democratic Committee will not find candidates to primary them. They will not try to get them out of the way. And that's what convinces me that the Democratic establishment is perfectly fine with Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema playing obstructionists. Like they are clearly playing the role or playing a role that the DNC wants them to play. Because if they
I've
were
said that.
really, if they were
Yeah.
really in the way,
I've said that 100 times. All
Absolutely.
they're doing is what Biden and the top corporate Democrats want. That's all they're doing.
and it's so disingenuous for the other Democrats to sort of cry and whine about, oh, well, Joe Manchin said he's not going to go for it. So, you know, foiled again. And it's like, that can't be the answer. Like
Yeah,
there
what
has to
voters?
be a workaround.
Yeah,
Go ahead, honey.
it's like they have so many excuses. It's Joe Manchin, it's Kristen Sinema, it's the parliamentarian. I had no idea that there was an office called parliamentarian until I turned 47 years old. Are you serious? Are you serious? But if you watch Joe Biden's town hall meetings that he had on CNN, yes, I did watch it, Talisha. I'm sorry. I did watch some corporate media. But when they kept saying, when John Lemon pressed him and said, look, the filibuster, getting rid of it is what it's going to take to move your legislation. Joe Biden came back and said, if we get rid of the filibuster, that's going to cause chaos. That alone tells me he's not serious about passing the George Floyd Act. He's not serious about
within the last
anything he
day or
says.
two, within the last day or two, Biden said, if we end the filibuster, nothing will get accomplished.
Yeah,
Look how much we're accomplishing with it.
And my question to him, go ahead, Talisha, I'm sorry.
This is the same Joe Biden that was on with civil rights leaders who told him very clearly to stop this police brutality and the violation of folks' civil rights. You yank that federal funding from these police forces until they can prove that they can, have, proper training, proper people out there that aren't Klan affiliated and hired on. And he said that was unconstitutional. We all know Joe is corrupt and he's just as rotten as the rest of them. He's in the pocket of big bank, big business, and definitely big pharma. So the fact that, Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema are doing the dirt and he's behind them with the strings, I very well believe that. It's very believable.
Yeah, especially after
Biden has been barely to the left of center for 47 years. When he was elected as president, he fell over that line and it wasn't to the left.
No, he went more right. And if you watch that town hall meeting, the way he said it, and I'm like, the audience, they were clapping for everything. Apparently, they went and found some of his cheerleaders because every other word, they were just clapping. When they got to that, they were just like, they were really silent. I'm like, go home, audience, and think about what he literally just said. He literally just said, I don't care about $15 minimum wage. I don't care about the George Floyd Act. I don't care about HR 1. I don't care if you vote or if you not. How do you have the answer right there in front of you and you won't do it? And my contention to everyone is that I don't care how black you say I am not. I didn't vote for him, so I'm not black. Is tell me something, and I ask every black person I meet this, tell me one thing that Joe Biden has done that has benefited the black community. I still haven't gotten the answer yet. And I don't want anybody bringing up the 1,400 checks because those should have been 2,000. And we should have been continually getting money. I feel like the government owes me at least $22,000, at least. If you go all those months we've been in this virus and you say, okay, take 1,000, take 2,000 and multiply it. It's at least 22,000. At least is what they owe me.
Well, the people said, like I said, both Democratic and Republican voters, they wanted Medicare for all. He said he would veto it even if it did come to his desk.
That's right.
People said defund the police. He said, let me give them $300 million more. Everything that the people on both sides of the aisle, the voters say they want, he says no. He's giving the House and probably the Senate to the Republicans next year.
Without a doubt. because all the people that are going to remember that Joe Biden still owes the money, like myself, are going to be very disinclined to show up and turn out for these established Democrats who just totally played in our faces. But circling back to what you guys were talking about, Medicare for all. I mean, yep, that's exactly what he said, that he would veto it if it landed on his desk. Mickey, you're 100% correct. And but it really bothers me that Joe Biden tries to play this I'm Joe Everyman sort of role while at, flagrantly standing in opposition to policies that would improve the everyday person's life. Like he talks about his son having, being addicted to drugs, and then the high cost of treatment and healthcare. And it's like, and here we are, sir, in a pandemic, and you're telling us that the cost of healthcare for your family is too high, and here you are standing in blatant opposition to Medicare for all. Like, what is even your rationale for that? Like, what is it? He doesn't even have a good reason for it, and the reason is exactly what you said, that Joe Biden is owned by DuPont and Kaiser Permanente and the people of Pfizer and all the people that are pouring money into his pocket to make sure that the American healthcare system at minimum stays exactly the way it is, which is worse, falling apart. And Joe Biden, I don't think he clearly pays more attention to people in the streets of Cuba who are in opposition to the communist government there than he does to the people of his own nation who have been out in the streets for literally years about Medicare for all and about ending police brutality. Like, so he just epitomizes the ongoing American hypocrisy in every single way, that wants to talk about human rights and healthcare and all this stuff and wag the finger at other nations. But when it comes to its own people, the United States does exactly what it criticizes other countries for supposedly.
Well, can you believe he said when he were talking about, I think it was China or Russia interfering in our government, when he stood up there and he said, can you imagine if the United States interfered in another country's government?
I'm like,
I think my
yes.
head exploded.
I'm like, yes. We do it all the time.
My
We do
brain's
it.
been flying out of my ears. I
And
mean, I can't believe he had the guts to say that. Unbelievable.
But
Yeah.
it's
in the
just,
same breath, he'll say, there's nothing our country can't do. We're the United States of America. And then we said, great, Medicare for all. Oh, we can't do that. It's too expensive. How are we going to pay for it? Like, how do you reconcile these two thoughts at the same time?
you don't. You just
Look,
open up your.
when he was asked, what do you think of the BLM movement? His response was, they have to stop the rioting and looting.
Oh, Jesus.
That was his response.
And yet, black people voted for him because he wasn't Trump. Why? I'm serious. Why? I know, Talisha, why you
Tone
did.
deaf, totally
But
tone
I'm
deaf.
like, no. Well, Kim, I said we was gonna be an hour. I'm gonna keep my word. I know you have plenty of things to do. I want to thank you so much for doing this. I promise to click your channel into my description, and I'll send you this portion of the episode. I am, again, invitation is always open. I really enjoyed having you here, and I know Talisha and Mickey and Jenny did too.
Oh, I'm very happy to meet you. I'm very excited. And I probably would fangirl a little, but at the moment I've been fangirling on Rashad Ritchie. So
Listen,
Fangirling on her too. He fangirls on her back.
thank you all.
Oh, and Kim, let us know where we can follow you.
Yes, I was going to ask you that.
Let us know where we can follow you.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys. So if you would not mind, head on over to Burn It Down with Kim Brown on YouTube and hit subscribe. We are all over social media. Twitter, Burn It Down with KB, and Instagram and Facebook at BIDWKB. And I want to thank you guys so much for the invitation. I feel immediately at home being here with you ladies. And I got to have you guys on my program because I need to do more panel stuff. I used to have, when I was, the first iteration of my show was called Stir Crazy when I was over on The Real News. But since we have departed The Real News and started Burning Down, I haven't done as much panel stuff. So I have to coordinate with you all to see if you can join me for a panel discussion one of these upcoming shows, because I would love to have the Progressive Queens on Burn It Down with Kim Brown. That would be great.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, Kim, again, I don't even know how many checks I'm going to be sending you. If I had the money, I would definitely send you checks.
That's kind. Thank
I'm
you.
just as broke as a joke, but
honey,
I really appreciate.
We appreciate free support, subscriptions, likes. Like money is bonus. If you just watch the show, share the show, like the show, subscribe to the show, that is more than enough.
Yep. So we will definitely be seeing you later on your show, and we'll send you this clip. And for Talisha and Mickey, we're going to come back in 5 minutes. I'm going to give you a 5-minute break, and we will talk to you all in 5 minutes. And thank you, Kim, for coming. I appreciate it. Have a fantastic
Nice
break.
to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Bye-bye.
Hi, Talisha. Thank you, Talisha, for the invitation.
Hi, Kim. I love you. Thank you, dear.
Thank you.